Time.
Well, in fact, I have seen the newest edition of Time. It's the one with the truth about dinosaurs on the cover.
Right, right.
And it's this is all because of Jurassic Park coming out soon. It's the Spielberg movie of the book by Michael Crichton.
Actually, yeah, that's true.
Oh, go ahead.
But, well, actually, what I just wanted to say, I just wanted to know if you'd read the People page yet.
No, I hadn't read. I have now, because up here I see on my computer screen it says, Laura, Cincinnati, you're in Time Mag - Indecent Proposal.
Yes.
So Bo Snerdley ran down the hall to my office and grabbed the magazine, brought it in, and yes, I have now looked at it.
Pretty funny, isn't it?
It is. Let me read it to you people. This is it's a little piece on if Robert Redford were in truth Frank Perdue or Ed McMahon or some more average type guy in the movie, would it have been as intriguing, so to speak? And whoever wrote this, there's no byline on it, whoever wrote this said that the director, whose name is Adrian Lyne, if Adrian Lyne is thinking about making another indecent proposal, he'd offer a powerful moral and aesthetic quandary, maybe even a hit, with Rush Limbaugh as Gage and Gloria Steinem as his $1 million one-night stand.
Well, I can't say much for Gloria Steinem, but certainly makes for an interesting movie with you in the part.
Really?
Yes, it would.
You know, I thought about doing a poll. What if it were me instead of Redford? Would you still do it?
Yeah, it'd be interesting.
Or would you do it? And then I said, no, that would offend too many in the audience who think that I would have gone off the moral deep end.
Well, I wouldn't be offended.
Really?
No.
Well, maybe we'll think about doing it then.
You want to know what I say?
Are you married?
No.
Well, it doesn't work. You have to be married.
I can imagine I'm married.
Okay, imagine you're married, and I come into your life, and I offer you and your husband and you have to agree on this.
Okay.
$1 million, because I want you for one night. Would you do it?
Would I do it? No, I wouldn't do it, but it'd be more tempting than Robert Redford.
And another example of what it's like to be me. Thanks, Laura. We'll be back. Don't go away.
Are you running out of time? Drive through and take it out at McCall's Barbecue and Seafood. The McCall Super Family Pack includes 1 pound of barbecue, a whole fried chicken, a pint of potatoes, and a pint of slaw for $12.05. The McCall Special is 4 pieces of fried chicken, a half a pound of barbecue, a half a pint of potatoes, half a pint of slaw for $6.05. Get a whole fried chicken for only $4.99. Just one taste is all it takes. Drive through and take it home from McCall's, Highway 70 and 111 Goldsboro, and Highway 55 West in Mount Olive.
Now in other news, Terminex is the target of recent bug attacks. Let's go to our correspondent, Mort Hinkey.
Thanks, Jody. Homeowners here complain that smart bugs have actually disconnected their phones when they call Terminex, the nation's leading...
Mort?
Let's face it, bugs don't like Terminex, and who can blame them? Our technicians know just where to find pests and the latest, most effective methods of treating them.
Hello?
Seems like we're having some technical difficulty with that Terminex report.
This is really beginning to bug me.
Call us. Nobody bugs bugs like Terminex.
First in Wayne County, this is 1150 WGBR, Goldsboro's very own.
From ABC News, I'm Gary Nahn. President Clinton blames David Koresh for what happened yesterday at the Branch Davidian compound in Texas. The president says that Koresh bears ultimate responsibility.
I have directed the United States Departments of Justice and Treasury to undertake a vigorous and thorough investigation to uncover what happened and why, and whether anything could have been done differently. I have told the departments to involve independent, professional law enforcement officials in the investigation. I expect to receive analysis and answers in whatever time is required to complete the review.
A House subcommittee hearing opens Friday into the standoff and its outcome. Chairman Don Edwards and ranking Republican Henry Hyde say they want to find out more about what happened. Hyde says,
just from a superficial analysis, and I stress that, it looks like we ran out of patience.
In their explanation about what happened at the compound, FBI agent Jeff Jamar was asked about reports of listening devices planted in some of the buildings.
I won't discuss what our intelligence techniques are. I'll just say to you that we had outstanding intelligence in many respects, but very inconsistent and sometimes very inconclusive.
Jamar says the government has evidence there was gunfire when the fire started. Some of that evidence was the discovery of a body in the rubble, a body with a gunshot wound, but it's uncertain when that person died. The Texas Rangers are now saying it'll take about 3 weeks to go through the wreckage of the compound. Secretary of State Warren Christopher has run head-on into blunt criticism from members of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, uneasy with what they are saying is failure by the U.S. to respond to Serbian aggression in Bosnia. Christopher says the U.S. supports tougher sanctions on Serbia.
We intend to press for total isolation of the Serbs so long as they continue their aggression. If the Bosnian Serbs fail to halt their aggression and agree to a peace plan within 6 days from today, Serbia will confront a series of harsh new measures.
You're listening to ABC News.
There won't be another say like it ever.
We're sexy, we're hot, we're young, you're not.
Apocalypse Insecticides, the people company.
With all the hype in advertising, it's understandable that you tune most of it out. But if you're buying or selling a home, take a moment to consider this. 9 out of 10 Coldwell Banker customers are so satisfied, they'd recommend us to a friend. That's our commercial. Coldwell Banker. Expect the best. Some offices independently owned and operated.
Ah, the sound of morning. Birds chirping, coffee percolating, and millions of morning breath bacteria multiplying inside your mouth. Gross, huh? Well, nobody said morning breath was pretty. But hey, that's why there's Scope. Scope kills 90% of morning breath bacteria. The medicine-y-smelling mouthwash can't even kill more. Scope leaves your breath smelling minty fresh. It can take you all the way from morning breath to a morning kiss.
Lieutenant Governor Walter Miller this afternoon is taking the oath of office as the 29th governor of South Dakota. Governor George Mickelson and 7 other people died yesterday when the state airplane crashed into a farmstead near Dubuque, Iowa. American builders were not quite as busy last month as they were in February. Housing starts fell 4.6%, reports ABC's Tony Sargent.
Analysts at the National Association of Home Builders say March was a downer because the blizzard and stiff lumber prices more than offset better mortgage rates. March lumber prices were double last October's cost, but they've declined considerably since then. Builders Association forecasters think the pace of home construction for the next few months can be the best in over 3 years if weather, the economy, and mortgage rates behave. Tony Sargent, ABC News, Washington.
Health researchers in Finland say children at risk for a common ear infection run twice the chance of developing it if they're put in a daycare center rather than staying at home. IBM reporting first quarter losses of $285 million. Compare that with earnings of $2.5 billion during January, February, and March last year. Sears reports its best quarter ever, a profit of $435 million due mostly to cost cutting in its retailing division. Wall Street right now, the Dow Jones Industrial's down 44.86 at 3422.13. The volume 220,470,000 shares. The trading's heavy. This is ABC News.
Customer comments on PIP printing.
As a small business owner, it can be tough. My competitors spend big money to get customers. I need to make a bigger impact on a smaller budget. So for my product sheets, I use PIP's Advantage Color. Affordable, short-run, full-color printing. I give PIP photos and product specs. They do the rest. Design, layout, color separations, and printing. Advantage Color, it gives me an advantage over my competition.
PIP Printing, the best business printer in the business.
For the ABC Information Network, I'm Gary Nunn.
Skies are going to stay partly cloudy the rest of today. We have some beautiful weather out there, and it's going to continue. Temperatures will continue heading up close to the 80 mark. Might fall just a little short of it, but it sure will feel like it's 80, even if it's not quite there. Increasing clouds tonight, lows around 60, and tomorrow, variably cloudy, scattered showers and thunderstorms developing. Highs mainly in the low to mid-70s. I'm Bill Schmidt at the Weather Center.
Thanks, Bill. Right now it's 78 degrees as we return to the Rush Limbaugh program right after this.
Here are some of today's top WGBR news stories.
The Mount Olive Town Board reaffirmed their confidence in Police Chief Wilson by a 4-1 vote. The absence of a commissioner delayed decision on the rezoning of the Gray family property in the Eastern Wayne area. Distinguished Citizen Banquet honoring West Seegers raised in excess of $61,000.
For details on these stories and other late-breaking news of Goldsboro and Wayne County, stay tuned to Goldsboro's very own 1150 WGBR.
Now, more of the Rush Limbaugh Show on 1150 WGBR.
Expressed by the host of this show makes so much sense. So much sense that people are stunned at the brilliance, the penetrating common sense that comes forth from the EIB golden microphone each day is attracting more and more people. It's called EIB, an airborne phenomenon spread by casual contact, and if you've got it, you're cured.
This is a special edition of the Rush Limbaugh program, America Held Hostage. And now, from our studios in New York City, here is Rush Limbaugh.
Thank you, John Donovan. Day 91. 91 days we have been held hostage by this administration. It's called the Raw Deal. Happy you're with us, ladies and gentlemen. 800-282-2882 if you would like to be on the program today. There are other things in the news aside from Waco. We'll get to those, but first, I called it. I told you people this was going to happen, and it has. President Clinton, in a Rose Garden announcement, has taken full responsibility for the actions taken yesterday in Waco, Texas. Earlier, it was possible to say that the president had sloughed it off on to Janet Reno. And I said this will not last. He'll assume responsibility for it at his press conference today, which he did. The number 2 item, the president is either listening to this show or somebody else down there is and told him what to say because he said the right thing. Well, I mean, you laugh, but whenever he says the right thing, you know it's got to come from this show. When something has to be said, who says it? Me. What did he say that was right? He said that ultimately David Koresh is responsible for all this stuff that happened. And he's absolutely right about it. And that is such a departure for someone of President Clinton's political ilk to actually assign blame to the person who did it. Very, very strange, and the NAACP is not going to like this. Various prisoners' rights and criminals' rights organizations are not going to like this at all. Liberals in general are not going to like this. They would rather find a way to blame America, rather find a way to blame society, find a way to blame conservatism, Reagan, Bush, or what have you. But the president went ahead and took the heat. I'll tell you something, as I have done these 2 hours today, just to reiterate if you're just joining us, I began the program today bluntly and penetratingly honest. I said, I don't care. This has not intrigued me, this Waco, Texas thing. From day one, I have not been consumed by it. But I'll tell you this. You remember the Symbionese Liberation Army and Patty Hearst, Donald David DeFries? That captivated me. Way back, I followed that as closely as I have ever followed anything. I was absolutely enamored with that whole thing. Don't know why. I mean, it was not that I was particularly a Patty Hearst fan or anything. I was just I was just fascinated. But now, I guess, but the Jim Jones thing, I never gave a hoot about. I couldn't have cared less. Same thing here. I could not have cared less about any of this. This was an irritating thing to me. Anytime the media spent an excessive amount of time on this, in my opinion, I got impatient and switched channels or whatever. It never did intrigue me. And I began the program stating so this morning, other than anybody's natural concern for the children here. People make choices, and these people in there made choices. The kids didn't. The kids did not have the ability to make choices. But as I have listened to people's comments in the previous 2 hours, and as I have read what people think as written to me via CompuServe electronic note, we call them prof notes, by the way. That's computer-use, a prof notes electronic note. So if you ever hear me say I get a prof note, it's a computer note, no paper. I am convinced that one of the big mistakes to make here would be to blame law enforcement officials. There's too much of that going on as it is. And one of the dangerous elements, or the dangerous, one of the, I think, potentially negative things to fall out of the Los Angeles situation is the notion that all cops or all law enforcement officials are brutes, brutal, irresponsible, trigger-happy, action-hungry, whatever might be said. And I think it always serves us well to remind ourselves just what we ask our law enforcement officials to do. We ask them to place their lives on the line, and we ask them to do things that the vast majority of us would not do, and we ask them to do it for not a whole lot of money. And as is the case in every walk of life, in every element of society, you are going to have people who do it well and people who don't do it well. But it would be a tragic error to assume that all of law enforcement is dangerous, wrong, bunch of bumblers, based on a trial verdict that may even be a travesty of justice in Los Angeles. So the correct thing to do here is to never forget who ultimately caused all this to happen and who ultimately set the fire. David Koresh and his followers. From the Supreme Court today, this is a shocker. Employers who fire workers to avoid having to pay them pensions do not necessarily violate federal laws which ban age discrimination. Such firings may violate federal pension law, but would violate the age bias law only if age were an actual factor. This was a unanimous ruling in the case of a Massachusetts man fired at age 62 shortly before he would have earned a pension. Actually, it's not a shocker. I said that to get your attention. Actually, what it is, you've got to prove that age was a factor if you're going to get an age discrimination victory. You've got to prove that age had a, which is only makes sense. There'll be more on this later. Something we have not talked about on this program has been, well, we did in an abbreviated way. We didn't do it at very great length because there were other things occupying our minds. But it is the report from the Alan Guttmacher Institute. Do you know who that is? I have told you people a number of times who the Alan Guttmacher Institute is. Do you know who it is? Do you know Mamone? Mr. Snerdley, you know who they are? It's Planned Parenthood. Alan Guttmacher Institute is the research arm of Planned Parenthood. That's why I use their statistics so extensively in my chapter in the book on abortion and feminism and a number of other things. And it is the Alan Guttmacher Institute which recently released a study indicating that 1% of American men are homosexual. Not 10%. As was the accepted figure from a Kinsey study in the 40s or the 50s. So now that the figure is reduced to 1% from 10%, the militant gay activists are running around saying, well, it doesn't matter. Civil rights shouldn't matter when it comes to percentages anyway. It's not a big deal. 10%, 1%, you still have no right. That misses the point. It's understandable that they would be alarmed because, after all, what has been one of the major objectives of the militant homosexual community? It is they, after all, who use the 10% number. They're the ones who trumpeted that number. They're the ones who championed that number. That number to them gave them political clout. That number said, hey, we're normal as anybody else, and 10% is a significant portion of the population, and we ought to have significant representation and all that. It's kind of like Mitch Snyder and the homeless. There were never 3 million in this country homeless. There aren't now. There never were, but nobody ever challenged the number because Mitch Snyder and the homeless advocacy all had good intentions. So what's 3 million? So it's only 600,000. So what? It's still 600,000. Well, it's not when those who are using the figure for their own political gain or for their own political advantage, when the number comes out, a revised number, either on the population of the homeless or the percentage of the population that's homosexual, you shouldn't be surprised when people say, hey, it's not 10%, it's only 1%. Well, boy, that's a lot of muscle these people have been able to use. So it is important. I think it is a factor. And it's important because the proponents of the 10% are the ones that made it important. They're the ones who rallied around the number. They're the ones who use the number to validate themselves. So when the number is reduced and they say, well, it doesn't really matter, then it's, of course, I think, in civil rights sense, they're right. I mean, just because somebody's only 1% of the population doesn't give you the right to deprive them of rights. Don't assume that it does. It's not what anybody is saying. But in determining political strength, you know what this should indicate to you? Because you do wonder, okay, if a group of the country is only 1% of the population, then what is it that gives them so much clout? The answer is money. The gay population of the United States is a very affluent group of people. And they contribute mightily to the democratic cause. What is the percentage of Jewish people in the country? So 2% or 3% of the population is Jewish. They have a lot of political clout. They have a lot of money. That's not criticism. It's simply a statement of the way things are. Same thing with the gay population. It's merely an answer to the question, well, what gives them so much clout if they aren't that large in number? Then what is it? It's money. Money is the mother's milk of politics. We should take a break, and we shall. We'll be back right after this with your calls as we resume. Don't go away.
You're listening to the EIB Network.
Picture the average carpet store, rows and rows of samples. That's all you see. Now, imagine walking in there and trying to choose one carpet that'll be a perfect match for your room. It's not possible. That's why FCI makes so much sense. They come directly to you. With the carpet store at your door, you can select from over 3,000 choices of top brand names in the comfort of your own home, so you can be sure that everything matches perfectly. With FCI's Mill Direct pricing, you can match your budget perfectly, too. But the best thing about FCI is the service. Each FCI representative takes the time to help you select just the right carpet that'll wear and look great for years to come. Installations are guaranteed, while you'll even be called back later on to make sure you are completely happy. In a business where most people would never buy carpet from the same store again, over 80% of FCI customers have been referred by another satisfied customer. Call FCI today to see why. Look for them in the white pages under Floor Coverings International, or call 800-967-3444. That's 800-967-3444.
Dear Hooked on Phonics, reading was one of the most difficult subjects for our son. It was a frustrating problem that even began to affect his self-esteem. Hooked on Phonics ended our struggle. The difference in his self-confidence is obvious to everyone, especially his teachers. Thanks to Hooked on Phonics, we now feel more confident as parents, too. Signed, J.H. Emporia, Virginia. For Hooked on Phonics plus SRA Reading Laboratories, call 1-800-ABCDEFG.
Everybody gets hungry when they hear that name, Sandpiper Seafood.
Everybody knows that it's the place to go. You'll see your cousin Sally and your Uncle Joe. Their food is so delicious it'll make you say, if I had 3 wishes I'd be back today. Yeah, everybody knows that it's the place to go.
By now, everybody knows about Sandpiper Seafood, but not everybody knows why they're so famous. Well, here's just a few reasons. Maybe it's their hearty fish, their tasty shrimp, their succulent oysters, or their fresh coleslaw. Now, doesn't that make your mouth water? Well, now you know why everybody eats at Sandpiper Seafood.
You'll leave us feeling satisfied and wearing a grin, and knowing very soon that you'll be back again. Yeah, everybody knows that it's the place to go.
Sandpiper Seafood on Highway 70 in LaGrange. The place to go.
Help the Shriners this coming Friday. The folks at Goldsboro Drug Company urge you to enjoy the Wayne Shrine Club's Chicken Fry this Friday from 11 a.m. till 2 p.m. and from 4 p.m. till 7 p.m. at the Old National Guard Armory at Jefferson and Beach Streets in Goldsboro. Eat in or drive through. Also a drive-through at Herman Park and at Mount Olive across from Mount Olive Center. All proceeds go to the Wayne Shrine Club Building Fund, not to benefit the Shriners Crippled Children's Hospital. Goldsboro Drug Company hopes you'll attend this Friday the Wayne Shrine Club Chicken Fry.
It's chicken time this Friday from 11 a.m. until 2 p.m. and from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the Old National Guard Armory in Goldsboro and Jefferson and Beach Streets. The Wayne County Shrine Club will hold their annual chicken fry. You can drive through or eat in. Also drive through at Herman Park and across from the Mount Olive Center in Mount Olive, including a half a fried chicken, coleslaw, potato salad, roll, iced tea or coffee. All proceeds go to the Wayne Shrine Club Building Fund. Help the Shriners who do so much to help others. Attend the Wayne Shrine Club Chicken Fry this Friday in Goldsboro and Mount Olive.
Now, more broadcast excellence at 1150 WGBR.
And back to the phones we go now on the Rush Limbaugh program, known also as the fourth branch of government. And Smithfield, North Carolina is our next stop. Hello, Peter.
Hey, Rush, how you doing? Glad to get through to you.
Thanks for calling.
Yeah, I'd like to quickly, I'm against the filibuster that's currently blocking the extension of unemployment compensation.
Are you out of work and need the money?
Well, I didn't take that chance with the present administration, and I became a geographical bachelor, left my wife and 3 kids in Vermont, and moved down here to work.
Wait, geographical bachelor, I assume that means you're still married.
Oh, yeah.
But you're only separated. You couldn't find a job in Vermont.
Not that would pay the bills.
Really? Well, that's Patrick Leahy's state. That's a good northeastern liberal state. So you're down in Smithfield, North Carolina. What have you found down there, job-wise, that pays the bills? I'm curious.
Well, you're going to like this, I think. I'm with a forging company as a tool maker, and the company's main backers are European.
A forging company, did you say?
Yeah, we forge steel parts.
Yeah. Oh, forge.
Forge, yes. And it's a fairly good paying job for me in my trade. And I've got kids in school. They want to uproot them.
Right.
My wife has a business up there in Vermont, daycare.
Well, let me tell you something, Peter, just so you'll know. Senator Dole, as the leader of the Republicans in the Senate, has, in a conversation with President Clinton, said, I will agree with you that we need to extend unemployment compensation benefits. If you will take those numbers, that it's $4.5 billion, if you'll take that money out of this stimulus package of yours, and let us deal with that separately and pay for it now with a budget cut from next year's budget, then we'll go ahead and sign that deal today. And the president has refused.
I understand that. And It's a damn shame.
The Republicans, but I heard you say you're against the filibuster because it's holding up the unemployment benefits, and I just want you and I want everybody in the country to know that the Republicans have proposed a deal to President Clinton. Take that unemployment compensation package out of this jobs bill, pay for it with a budget cut that you've already planned for anyway in the next budget, and we'll pay for it today, and you got it tomorrow. And he said, no, won't do it.
I know. That's why I didn't vote for him. I didn't know he was going to say that now, but, I had a feeling that's the way he was going to be.
Well, they just don't want to lose any power. This already has become a power game, and they've already lost it. The $16 billion is now nothing more than power. And as I said yesterday, the interesting thing here is that the Republicans are confident. The Republicans need to maintain a positive offensive attitude rather than the traditional defensive attitude that they've had so often because of their minority status. They've gone out. They have experienced no anger from constituents because of their filibuster or over the filibuster, and so they came back to Washington yesterday to resume their session, and it is full speed ahead. Now, the reason they're feeling confident is because 43 senators have shown that they can stop the $16 billion stimulus package. What else can they stop? You know, the real budget, the big $1.5 trillion budget that he's proposed, all those tax increases and all that new spending, a lot of Republicans are saying, hey, maybe we can stop some of that. And they should. They should. That's what democracy is all about. Let me read something to you, folks, from the Federalist Papers. In my interview coming up with Thomas Sowell in the May issue of the Limbaugh Letter, he has an incredible story to tell about how you can't go to too many libraries and find the Federalist Papers, but you can find all the stuff on Karl Marx you want on college campi today. And after all, what are the Founding Fathers famous for? The Federalist Papers. Those were the documents that preceded the construction of the U.S. Constitution. The Federalist Papers. And you can't find them. They're tough to find, but you can read Marx and Engels and Ortega. That'd be Daniel of Nicaragua for those of you who've forgotten. And you can probably even find some writings of Jack Germán somewhere in these college bookstores. Now listen to this. Bill Smith has sent me this via CompuServe Profnote. Bill seeks a doctorate from the Limbaugh Institute, and in pursuit of this doctorate, he furnishes this information. Regarding your comments on staying the course for congressional opposition, I'm reminded of this quote by James Madison from the Federalist Papers. Quote, this is Madison, I think this is Federalist 10. Listen, follow me. And now, by the way, this is written by somebody back in the founding days when they used language properly. It may be tough to understand because there are no uhs, ands, by gollies, and all that. And yeah, hey, like, man, you know, there's none of that in here. The words make sense. We might want to take this down to TV tonight and put it on, because it's always easier to follow this stuff if you can read it rather than listen to it. But we'll try. Listen to this. Quote, the accumulation of all powers, legislative, executive, and judiciary, in the same hands, whether of one, a few, or many, and whether hereditary, self-appointed, or elected, may justly be pronounced the very definition of tyranny, unquote. Mr. Smith, in pursuit here of his doctorate from the Limbaugh Institute, thus analyzes, Mr. Limbaugh, if the congressional Republicans do not stand in opposition, they clear the way for tyranny. You understand that, ladies and gentlemen? I know the members of this audience do. But there are also members of this audience who are new to this show each day that may not. They're liberals trying to find the light. This is a beacon. This is a searchlight. We've found you with this one. What this means here, let me read Madison's words. The accumulation of all powers, legislative, executive, and judiciary, in the same hands, whether of one, a few, or many, and whether hereditary, self-appointed, or elected, may justly be pronounced the very definition of tyranny. In other words, if the Democrats have the House, if the Democrats have the Senate, if the Democrats have the White House, and as such are able then to appoint all the judges, and if they are not opposed, if everything they want is simply allowed to happen because there are insufficient numbers of the opposition, then what you have is tyranny, not democracy. And so it is incumbent, according to Madison's theory, that the Republicans oppose what they disagree with. To do less is to allow tyranny. Hello, you people. Rush Limbaugh here. You know, it's alarming but true. People do judge you by the words you use. When you speak well, you command respect. You move ahead faster. Verbal Advantage, Achievement Dynamics' best-selling audio cassette word power program, will give you the words you need to communicate with confidence and flair. And with Verbal Advantage, all you have to do is listen. To learn more, call now, 1-800-28-TAPES. That's 800-28-TAPES.
This is WGBR News, Goldsboro's very own.
Good afternoon. At 2:30, it's 78 degrees and sunny. I'm Dory Roberts. Stay tuned for the next ABC News update on the Waco situation with Gary Nunn.
President Clinton says he's directed the Departments of Justice and Treasury to begin a full investigation into the operation by federal agents that ended in a deadly inferno yesterday at the Branch Davidian compound in Texas.
I was informed of the plan to end the siege. I discussed it with Attorney General Reno. I asked the questions I thought it was appropriate for me to ask. I then told her to do what she thought was right, and I take full responsibility for the implementation of the decision.
The president said David Koresh was responsible for the loss of life and called the cult leader dangerous, irrational, and probably insane. Meanwhile, back at Mount Carmel, crews are combing through the ashes.
We've just been advised by the Texas Rangers. They're calling this the most complicated and biggest crime scene they've ever encountered. And they say it will take a minimum of 3 weeks just to sift through the rubble of this thing.
ABC's Charles Murphy in Waco, and I'm Linda Moore, ABC News.
Next ABC News at 3 o'clock. Next update, 3:30. In local news, a resolution asking the local government commission to waive the 3% differential rule for refinancing bonds was approved last night by the Goldsboro City Council. The local government commission rule says bonds cannot be refinanced unless there's a 3% differential. The City Council wants a waiver of the rule because it doesn't feel interest rates are going down sufficiently to realize that differential. The city wants to refinance bonds worth $15 million and will continue studying the market. But the City Council was told last night that under the current circumstances, there's no way at the moment to arrive at an estimate of the savings that possibly could be realized by refinancing those bonds. And 2 inmates in the minimum security federal prison at Seymour Johnson Air Force Base told Goldsboro Kiwanians yesterday that their goal is to help others understand and avoid the pitfall of drugs. They warn that the legally accepted drug, alcohol, is the most dangerous because it leads the way to hard drugs. Time for our forecast from the Weather Center.
Partly cloudy skies, bright, dry weather continuing the rest of today. Our temperature heading up close to 80 degrees this afternoon. And looks like the humidity will stay pretty low, too, so it'll be comfortable. Breezy, too. Increasing clouds tonight, lows in the upper 50s and low 60s. Then tomorrow, variably cloudy, a chance of scattered showers and thunderstorms, mostly in the afternoon. Highs in the low to mid-70s. I'm Bill Schmidt at the Weather Center.
Thanks, Bill. Right now, it's 78 degrees as we return to the Rush Limbaugh Show right now.
Crashing through the obstacles, rolling over the barricades, refusing to stop even for a moment in hostile territory. The dust is rising behind us as the caravan rolls and grows due to the strength and the willpower of one man, the man America turns to in times of turmoil. Rush Limbaugh.
Happy to be here for you, folks. Each day, it counts. 800-282-2882. I'm just going through the Time Magazine cover, Time Magazine issue this week. It's the April 29th, 26th issue with the Truth About Dinosaurs cover. And there's a little segment here on the movie Jurassic Park coming up. But it is a good book. It's a Michael Crichton book. It's a fun read. It really is a good book. And it's about cloning dinosaur DNA found in amber, which is fossilized trees and so forth. And it's how they bring up. This guy wants to create an amusement park with dinosaurs, and they do it. And now there's this big push. I don't know, this dinosaur craze. I don't know what spawned it, but it's everywhere. And you know what one of the theories about dinosaurs is? That they were birds, or that they didn't fly, but they were supposed to be birds. They were generally a screw up. Generally something went wrong. So, and I'll never forget, it was a great editorial cartoon. I think it was The Far Side, a Gary Larson cartoon. And it had a dinosaur looking at his calendar. And it was The Far Side. You know how we have our appointment calendars? You have the month, you got 30 days, you write down on each day what you're going to do every day. Every day on the dinosaur calendar, kill something and eat it. What else did they do? That's exactly right. That's the whole animal world, except for pets. Get up, kill something, and eat it as often as you can. In the Bronx, this is John. Welcome to the Rush Limbaugh program. Glad you called.
How you doing? Ditto from the Bronx there, Rush.
Thank you very much.
Listen, I want to make a little comment about the trial, the federal trial in California. I have a little problem with the jurors and what they said. They claim that at no time did they feel any pressure put upon them by the riots and what went on previously. I have a feeling, however, that the jurors indeed were paying attention to what had happened to previous jurors that were on that past trial, the state trial. And I feel that the previous state jurors took an awful harassing from the press, the media, their neighbors, magazine articles, and everything.
Oh, hey, let's not forget that we got into a little trouble on this show because we reported a newspaper which reported the names of those jurors. Remember that?
Uh-huh.
And everybody came after us because all we did was report what had appeared in the newspaper, and the newspaper had to issue an apology for publishing the names and I think addresses of the first jurors. And so you know, our memories are short. You're right; those jurors were harassed, and even after all that, none of the ones who've spoken publicly have stated they would change their verdict.
Exactly, and I just was wondering how these jurors must have felt in the, in the jury room there, deliberating and wondering, geez, if we ever come up, with a not guilty plea, what's going to happen to us? Are they going to hold us to the same task that were happening to those previous jurors?
Well, see, I mean, unless they say so, we'll never know, and they're saying that they weren't affected by that.
Yeah, but I think in the back of their minds they probably were. And another thing about that trial, Rush. I was looking at those four attorneys that were that were defending those four police officers, and then I'm looking around at the big mystery palace that trial was held in, and the big federal building with all kinds of federal attorneys, FBI agents, mega bucks all over the place,
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying to myself, how the heck can anybody get any kind of a trial with that, with all the dollars that went into to prosecute these guys?
Well, there's no question you had a political trial, and you had a political verdict, you had a political outcome here. But I think, I think the case could have been won. It was going to be profoundly difficult to win. for the defense. But let's not forget something. One of the things that I always focus on whenever a jury verdict becomes a matter of controversy, one of the things I always try to stay focused on are the proceedings, or is the proceedings themselves, what went on in there. Now, you have to, as a citizen, you have to have faith in the system. That's what's wrong with this whole thing in the first place. The system worked the first time. I am confident and convinced, as are a lot of people, that the first trial verdict was just and appropriate based on all that happened. And we've been through this I don't know how many times. There are jury verdicts constantly that we disagree with, and it's a dangerous thing to get into criticizing a jury verdict when we weren't on the jury, and when all we know about a particular trial is that which is told to us in 90-second sound bites on television every night and in the newspaper. But I'm convinced the prosecution presented a botched case in the first trial. They went in overconfident. They focused on the wrong things because they thought they had it locked, and they went in, they were so cocky that they went for the most serious charge they could get, which is something akin to attempted murder in many states. Now, let's not forget, in the second trial, the prosecution team, whether they had a lot of money and all behind them, you can't do anything about it. They did. And the prosecution team was a good bunch of lawyers. Steve Clymer is a great lawyer. He is a tremendous trial lawyer. He's just good. And the fact that they won this case with an entirely different strategy. You may say, well, that's unfair. They had a first trial to look at to know what not to do. That may be the best way to go here in terms of discussing this, and that's really the fact that there was double jeopardy, that these cops were made to face the same charges twice. They just called them different things, but they were the same thing. They were made to face the same charges twice, and that is something that ought to trouble everybody. Nevertheless, they decided that what was missing in the first trial from the prosecution standpoint was emotion. And they said, we're going to have to get to these jurors' hearts. We're going to have to tug their heartstrings, and they did it. They didn't use the videotape. Can you imagine that, folks? All you know of this case is the videotape. You think these cops are guilty because of the videotape. The prosecution didn't even use it. They de-emphasized. The defense used the videotape because that's what won it for them in the first trial. So you got to expect the defense to stick with what worked the first time, the prosecution to change. And that's what happened. And plus this calling Melanie Singer as a defense witness, that looms, from what I know, as something that backfired for the defense. But you have to take these things for what they are, and for the sanctity of the system and for the good of the system, you have to trust it. Now, there are still appeal processes open to the defense, and there are many ways and many opportunities to appeal this. I think the judge has seen to it that there are plenty of ways to appeal. I don't doubt for a moment that many people in this case in Los Angeles didn't want to be tied to any acquittals. Didn't want their houses to burn down. They didn't want violence to be linked to them, blamed on them, or whatever. But in the process of trying to distance themselves from acquittal, they may have opened the door for appeal and being overturned on appeal. But that's going to be political, too. Because this, if I'm not mistaken, this is going to get appealed to the Ninth Circuit, and the Ninth Circuit, San Francisco, and you can forget it. The Ninth Circuit in San Francisco is a very liberal court. So, but it's still it's a beautiful thing, folks. Our criminal judicial system, on balance, it works. It is set up to favor the accused. We have to do a lot to convict people, as has been demonstrated here, and those accused have all kinds of avenues available to them for reversal on appeal. An individual case, yep, we're going to find things wrong. This case, I think, the double jeopardy aspect is travesty. I think the fact that you can now make a claim that those who looked at this verdict as social policy have now been emboldened and think that all they got to do is threaten violence again or threaten unrest, and they can intimidate people to getting what they want in a court of law based not on the law but other things, and that's bad. But I'm confident the system will take care of that and handle that eventually itself too. Glad you called, John. I appreciate and understand your comments. We'll be back in a moment.
You're listening to the EIB Network.
Did you know that Congress is considering legislation that would ban bullets for certain firearms? That's right, the war against your gun rights is being fought on many fronts these days. There are laws under consideration to ban handguns, sporting rifles, and shotguns. Laws to ban gun parts like ammo holding clips. Even laws to ban the parts within these parts. There's not much left over for the shooting sports or self-defense when gun springs, firing pins, and bullets are banned. And all this could happen in the very near future if anti-gun groups get their wish list from the incoming president. So what's it going to be? Bans on your firearms, or a message asking politicians to wake up and realize that crime will stop when criminals are put in prison and kept there? I'm Wayne LaPierre for the National Rifle Association. Help us win the fight for your gun rights. Call 1-800-227-4NRA today.
Contributions to the NRA are not deductible for federal income tax purposes.
It's New Orleans on the Noose, the finest dining experience, the River House Restaurant. And the River House Restaurant is now open Wednesday through Saturday for evening dining and buffet, and only $10.99. And there's a Sunday luncheon buffet, only $6.75, and it adds a new dimension to Sunday dining. Now, this is no ordinary buffet. Many entrees, plus a great variety of vegetables, soups, and salads, as well as dessert. The River House Buffet, Wednesday and Thursday, 5 till 10 p.m., Friday and Saturday, 5 till 11 p.m., Sunday, 11 a.m. to 2:30 in the afternoon. And the evening buffet, only $10.99. The Sunday lunch buffet, $6.75. Youngsters 11 and under, only $3.99. The entire family will enjoy the New Orleans-style restaurant and the new buffet at the River House Restaurant. Also, the finest steamed shrimp and oysters at the Oyster Bar. The River House Restaurant, 413 East New Hope Road in Goldsboro.
Help the Shriners this coming Friday. The folks at Master Carpet and Interiors urge you to enjoy the Wayne Shrine Club's Chicken Fry this Friday from 11 a.m. until 2 p.m. and from 4 p.m. till 7 p.m. at the Old National Guard Armory at Jefferson and Beach Streets in Goldsboro. Eat in or drive through. Also a drive-through at Herman Park and at Mount Olive across from Mount Olive Center. All proceeds go to the Wayne Shrine Club Building Fund, not to benefit the Shriners Crippled Children's Hospital. Master Carpet and Interiors hopes you'll attend this Friday. The Wayne Shrine Club Chicken Fry.
If spring sewing is on your mind, well, here's a reminder that spring sewing starts with the new home sewing machines at Creative Sewing Center on Berkeley Boulevard across from Adamsville Baptist Church. At Creative Sewing, they have sergers as low as $249, a Mother's Day special of $199 on New Homes Model 108, and a combination serger Memory Craft 4000 deal that can save you $200. So visit Creative Sewing Center, Berkeley Boulevard, across from Adamsville Baptist Church. And then start sewing and saving with New Home.
Performing my job with flawless broadcast excellence, this is Rush Limbaugh on WGBR. Hey, how about this? I'm sitting in here, I'm minding my own business. I'm preparing for this broadcast segment. When through the door comes Joanne, our lovely and gracious Wellesley intern, decked out today in bright fire engine red everywhere, sweater and jeans. Well, I don't know if they're saying it in exactly those words, but that's what Bob Dole is saying. But look at this is a problem. Look at what they've done. They did what you wanted them to do. They just hornswoggled this thing. They held it up. They stopped it. Now, oftentimes actions, and I think this is one of the problems we have with television, one of the television generation. We don't look at what people do anymore. We simply listen to what they say. If you want to know if you want to have